ESPN.com. Check out Ramona's piece on the Milwaukee Bucks ownership subplot that could determine Giannis Antetokounmpo's future. Giannis has missed Milwaukee's last 3 games with a knee injury, but was seen working out pregame on Saturday. The Bucks are 7.5 games out of the play-in with just 12 to play. In addition, SHAMS has reported Giannis is resistant to being shut down for the season. He's listed as out tonight against the Clippers. So regardless of how this season plays out, Giannis could be entering his final season under contract with Milwaukee this summer. So, Ramona, you spoke to Bucks co-owners, Wes Edens and Jimmy Haslam. What did they say about Giannis' future?
Well, I think what was remarkable to me is that for the first time we've got somebody in the Bucks ownership group saying, yeah, we could trade him. And Wes Edens essentially said, look, he's going into the final year of his contract, so one of 2 things will happen. He'll either be extended or he'll be traded. And that was, to me, my eyes opened wider when he said that, because there's been this idea that yes, they had discussions about him in the past, and yes, they gauged the market on him, but there was at least from teams that I spoke to who were engaged in those discussions, it didn't seem like the Bucks were all that serious about trading Giannis during this past season. They listened on offers, but the Warriors threw 4 unprotected firsts at them, and they didn't really gain much traction. Miami made a strong offer, and Minnesota made strong offers, but there wasn't the sense that they wanted to move forward. And a lot of the teams that I spoke to said, we're not exactly sure which owner is calling the shots here. There's Wes Edens has the controlling ownership, but Jimmy Haslam is also in the picture here. He'll take over as the controlling owner in 2 years, and Jimmy Haslam, at least in one case, engaged in direct conversations with another owner in this conversation. So who's making the call here? Is it the guy who is running the team now, or is it the guy who's going to run the team in a couple of years? And I think the sense is, yeah, they sat in a room with me together for 90 minutes. They said they're going to make the decision together. You got to take them at their word. And the fact that they said he'll either be extended or be traded, I think there was some clarity put forth in that conversation.
You know, I'm looking forward to the draft lottery as we can keep preaching and preaching. Mm-hmm. This is a unique and amazing and potentially historic draft.
Yeah.
And depending on how things play out, and like Tim knows with Dallas or, you know, Spurs jumping up, like you never know how things play out. But I think after the draft lottery airs out, perhaps there's a team that's in that top 3 or 4 that could be an interesting team from a competitive standpoint that may, you know, couldn't be able to at that point make a play to the Bucks to like, hey, we got somebody that's a lifetime changer for your franchise. How about Giannis for him?
Well, and the Bucks have to do what's best for the Bucks. They've been trying for years and years and years to do whatever Giannis wanted, whatever they thought Giannis wanted this last summer. Anything possible to try to cling to the hope that they could win or contend for another championship with Giannis, which that's not happening. And so it's time for everybody to turn the page, and Giannis doesn't want to ask for a trade. He doesn't want to demand a trade. Milwaukee, you got to move the guy. You've got to give yourself
protect the franchise.
Right, exactly. And look, they've dug themselves into purgatory trying desperately to give Giannis another chance to compete for a championship in Milwaukee. There's no shame in failing to do that. That banner that he put up there will hang forever, but it's time for both sides to move on, and the Bucks don't have to let Giannis dictate where he goes.
What's interesting is the timing here, though.
Wait, but let me follow up on that real quick. So, because I assumed because he's only got 1 year left on the deal, he could have more control.
It's up to whoever's trading for him to determine whether they want to take that risk, okay? Yeah. Listen, Donovan Mitchell wanted to go to the New York Knicks. He got traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers. He ended up signing an extension with Cleveland.
Dame Lillard, Miami.
Exactly. I mean, exactly. The Bucks have lived on the other side of that. And so it's not up to the Bucks to do whatever Giannis wants. Now, can Giannis and his agent maybe influence what the marketplace is? They can try. Yeah. But if there's a team willing to take the risk of, hey, if we get Giannis here, we can get him to extend. It's what the Bucks have to do is get the best possible value.
I do wonder, like, going forward, do they think about this is the greatest player in our franchise's history? Maybe they treat him with different gloves than others have been treated.
Well, the timing of this is really interesting because they can't offer that extension until October.
Right.
So the transaction cycle you're mentioning in and around the draft, that's before October. Yeah. That's before he gives them the answer. And I think when you say, you know, he'll either extend or be traded because we can't afford to let him hit free agency, that timing is very interesting. Do they make that decision in and around the draft before they have the answer on the extension? Does it depend on the offers? Does it depend on what he's saying to them before that? That's I think, something to watch as we go.
Well, I would assume Giannis' agent, right, will have conversations with these teams, and they'll have an inclination as to whether he'd resign, right?
Is it in the Bucks' best interest to extend them even if he's willing?
No question.
That's a big question.
Do what? Compete to be a 10 seed again next year?
We
No,
saw how
right.
this went this
Well,
year.
the asset. You need the asset.
You need to trade him this summer. That's what you need to do.
All right, let's go coast to coast and get you caught up on the action from around the association. Starting in Denver, Peyton Watson returned for the Nuggets, but it was all about Nikola Jokic, who messed around and got a league-leading 28th triple-double on the season as Denver defeated the Blazers. Mark, what's impressed you most about the Joker this season?
Well, I'm actually hearing that the Nuggets are a little concerned about how he's being defended of late. Teams are guarding him 18 feet from the basket, leaning on his legs, fronting him, putting their arms around him, but he's still figuring out a way to ball out.
The Joker, that's probably why he has so many turnovers this year compared to previous years. All right, it was a garden party in New York. Jalen Brunson dropped 22. Cat had 26 and 16 boards, a double-double. The Knicks routed the Wizards for their sixth straight win. Ramona, are the Knicks heating up at the right time?
Yeah, they got 6 straight wins here. I mean, look, this is against Washington. 16 straight losses for the Wiz.
The Liz with an L.
I mean, I don't know what to say.
General?
Look, they took care of business, I guess you could say. They were supposed to win this game, and they did. They were up by like 30. They scored 33 points in the fourth quarter. Tyler Kolek?
I would go with the no W.
There you go.
There you go. No problem on Sunday as Minnesota pulled out a road dub against the Celtics. The Timberwolves' first win in Boston in 21 years.
Hey-o.
Tim, how many members of the 05 Timberwolves do you remember besides KG?
I cheated. I looked. Shout out Troy Hudson.
Okay.
Cassell Sprewell. Sam Cassell actually was on the roster.
Yep.
Didn't play in this game. Same with Michael Olowokandi, but it was KG and a bunch of dudes, just for the record.
All right, now on East.
So the Pistons, and they're dealing with their Cade Cunningham situation, but their lead is still comfortable for the 1 seed. Look at the Knicks coming on fast behind the Celtics and for that 2nd seed, however significant that may wind up being. Obviously, it matters on some level. But I wanted to have 2 conversations about the Celtics. The first is about Tatum. You were telling me this morning that when you came back from a devastating knee injury, the amount of time that it took you to get back to where you needed to be. Here's Tatum. What are you seeing in him at this stage of his return?
I think it's right on cue. You come back, you're shooting the ball well, your legs are under you. It's the excitement of the game happening, right? And then you hit this little wall where things might not be as successful for you. You might not be shooting it well. You see things starting to shoot it short. That's all on your legs, and your legs getting reacclimated to being in the NBA, to playing at this level. So now, once you make that adjustment, I think it's right on time because you're about to start approaching playoffs, and we don't need him to really be on fire until about round 2 is where you would expect him to really start turning the corner and being part of this thing. So relax right now. Understand that you're letting the game come to you. Trust in what your coaching staff is doing, your training staff is doing.
Yeah.
And then also understand, like, hey, I got JB over here holding it down. He's been holding it down all season, and the Celtics look pretty good with here at the reins of it.
What if I told you the wildest Warriors rumor wasn't just internet fantasy? It was real enough that the whole league had to pay attention. Aha, because that's the part that gets me fired up. We are talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo, a 2-time MVP, a Finals MVP, one of the most terrifying forces in basketball, and the Warriors were not sitting back quietly. ESPN's Shams reported in late January that Giannis was open to a new home ahead of the trade deadline, and that the Warriors were one of the serious suitors, right there with the Knicks, Heat, and Timberwolves. Then, NBC Sports Bay Area reported after the deadline that Milwaukee held on to Giannis for now, but Golden State hoped to revisit the pursuit in the offseason. Yeah, that means this was not fake smoke. This was real pressure, real interest, real ambition. And let's be honest, Dub Nation instantly saw the vision. Steph Curry pulling defenders 30 feet from the rim, Giannis crushing the paint, the defense panicking every single possession. Come on, man, how do you guard that? You can't trap Steph too hard because Giannis is already diving into open space. You can't build a wall on Giannis because Steph is relocating into a clean 3. That is not just star power, that is basketball torture. And that's why Monty Poole reported the Warriors were willing to open up almost the entire roster to make it happen, with Stephen Curry as the obvious untouchable. That tells you everything about how serious Golden State was about maximizing Steph's championship window. Now, here's the scary part for the rest of the NBA. This story might not be dead. The Bucks did not trade Giannis at the deadline, but Milwaukee's situation has only gotten shakier. Reuters reported this week that Giannis is dealing with a hyperextended left knee and bone bruise, has already missed a career-high number of games this season, and Milwaukee has fallen well below 500 and outside the play-in line in the East. ESPN also recently reported that the Bucks ownership has openly acknowledged that this summer could force a choice, either extend Giannis or trade him. Ooh, that is a giant flashing light over the whole offseason. And yeah, the price would be brutal. Young talent, multiple first-round picks, maybe the kind of package that makes fans hold their breath. But that's what happens when a once-in-a-generation player becomes even remotely attainable. The Warriors know it, the league knows it. And honestly, I respect Golden State for thinking this big. This franchise is not acting scared. It is acting like a franchise that still believes Steph deserves one more full-scale run at a title. That is favorable to the Warriors no matter what happens, because it proves they are still hunting, still swinging, still operating like a contender instead of a museum. So my question to Dub Nation is simple. If Giannis hits the market again this summer, do you go all in and live with the cost, or do you protect the future and walk away? Drop your take in the comments, hit like, subscribe, and let's keep talking Warriors the way real fans do.